How we doing, everybody? My name is Austin Medina, here with the Madness Sports Talk, and I'm here with Stefan Joyce. How we doing, Steph?
We're doing great. You know, the biggest weekend of the year is coming up Saturday and Sunday. We got 2 extra games. We got a lot to look for.
Oh, yeah. We're going to go to the AFC South champions. The Tennessee Titans host the Baltimore Ravens in a rematch of last year when the Titans went to Baltimore. Oh, and they ran the ball all right. Derrick Henry, King Henry ran all day over Baltimore. And this is a completely different team for Tennessee and for Baltimore. A little fun fact, the home team never won a playoff game in this matchup. This goes back to the Steve McNair days and Ray Lewis. The road team always wins. Maybe some good lore on the side of the Ravens, who have the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL. Tennessee has the second best rushing offense in the NFL. What are you looking for in this game, Steph?
Well, you know, us coming from Loyola and Baltimore was a heartbreaker last year in the streets of Baltimore when Derrick Henry threw Earl Thomas and the entire heart of Baltimore to the ground with his stiff arms and just his highness, King Henry. So he, you know, I think there's no way you could debate that the guy is not going to have a great game because ran for 2,000 yards, 5th most all time in NFL history. I mean, he is just. We're watching one of the greatest runners of all time, and it's pretty special to watch. And I think, you know, seeing their rival, honestly, it's kind of a rivalry game. You look at the divisional game last year, where the Ravens are coming in number 1 seed, hot as ever, and huge underdog for the Tennessee Titans after beating the Patriots in Foxborough, so they're riding high. Then you go to the regular season game this year. Derrick Henry has a walk-off rushing touchdown against the Ravens.
Right.
So there's a lot of blood. There's a lot of bad blood, a lot of animosity. There's that whole middle of the field jawing session between Mike Vrabel and Harbaugh, and Malcolm Butler for some reason got in on it. Everyone was upset during that game. So that's going to boil over. So just the drama of the game is going to be great. And as I said, people love revenge. I think Lamar Jackson has revenge on his mind on this weekend. He's been playing great. I mean, ever since that Cleveland game when he went to the bathroom for cramps,
right.
He's been balling. J.K. Dobbins, this is my hot take. I think J.K. Dobbins outruns Derrick Henry in this game.
Wow.
I think that the Titans defense is a Swiss cheese. I think that the Titans defense is their crutch. They're not. You can't rely on them. And with Mike Vrabel at the helm, it's surprising. You know, as a defensive-minded guy, they have solid players, but they haven't really been able to figure out all the Titans games I've watched this year. They've been easily run over and passed through. And I think that Lamar Jackson is going to throw great as well. You know, he's obviously forced to throw in these situations. I don't think he's going to have 2 interceptions like like the divisional round last year. And I just think that the Ravens are getting hot at the right time. It was at one point they were 6-5, if I remember correctly. They've rattled off 5 straight wins, and they've gotten themselves back in the picture. And they're not gonna waste it this time. But I think that it's really interesting to see how the Titans approach Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson is the key to this game. Because I'd say he's the most talented player on the field, maybe other than Derrick Henry. Just what he can do with his arm and his feet. And so I think that if the Titans defense, if they can do some damage to Lamar, you know, the way he plays, you know, not that he's got severely injured yet, but you know, he's an RG3 type. Speaking of RG3, the guy talks a lot of crap on Twitter as well, considering he's played about 5 minutes on the field. So that's another stuff. So he likes to talk. So I just think there's going to be a lot of drama. You think that that's going to boil over it all and have it be a pretty heated game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, whenever a team knocks you out of the playoffs, there's always going to be an incentive to get that game back. Baltimore was robbed of that of revenge in the regular season this year. They got, slaughtered with COVID. A lot of players were out. You know, Derrick Henry may have ran for 130 plus yards, but there was no Calais Campbell. There was no Brandon Williams. The run defense, those are the two staples of the run defense of Baltimore. And as I said to start, this is not the same Ravens team that they versed last year. Patrick Queen led the team in tackles, 106 tackles this year as a rookie, and 10 quarterback hits. So that's something to look after. You know, of course, with Derrick Henry, there's always going to be that issue, right? Baltimore has to get over that psychological edge of Derrick Henry is one man, right? I mean, I understand he has 2,000 rushing yards this year, and I understand that he's going to get MVP votes. But the Baltimore Ravens, Calais Campbell, have you seen that man? Have you seen Derek Wolfe? Have you seen Brandon Williams, who's 300 pounds? You know, these players aren't thinking of Derrick Henry as this juggernaut of a player. The Tennessee Titans offensive line has been diminished, has been depleted since last year. No Taylor Lewan. They lost Jack Conklin due to free agency. The scariest team in the NFL playoffs this year is the Baltimore Ravens. They're clicking at the right time. They're actually healthy for the first time all year. Lamar Jackson is a dual threat. 1,000 yards rushing, 26 passing touchdowns, doesn't turn the ball over in the red zone. Now they go to Tennessee and they have, you know, they may not have Ronnie Stanley, but they could run the football. And it's, you know, you said J.K. Dobbins, who's an electric talent as a rookie, but they got Gus Edwards, another bell cow from Rutgers. You know, for me, the Ravens, it's going to come down to the receivers stepping up against the Tennessee secondary, right? The Tennessee secondary is their strength. You know, they've lost Jadeveon Clowney. They've lost Jarrell Casey. You know, these players were pivotal players in last year's victories over New England and over Baltimore. And I didn't even mention Logan Ryan. So Tennessee, I don't not know how they can be favored in this game. I think the Ravens are going to win this game. Tennessee has a lot of issues. If Indianapolis was healthy, the Titans would be a 7 seed. They would not have won the South. It came down to Sam Sloman making a last second field goal for them to win the division and host. I think the Ravens have the perfect opportunity here to use this game as a stepping stone. And as you know, depending on what happens in that Colts-Bills game, the Baltimore Ravens could have the pick of the litter against the Steelers or Cleveland. Cleveland is 0-2 against Baltimore, and I know the Ravens lost twice to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but RG3 and Trace McSorley will not be playing in the playoffs. And that first game against the Steelers, they lost Ronnie Stanley on the second drive of the game. So Baltimore is a scary team. I can't stress it enough. I do think that they can make a run deep. They got to get through the Titans, and you know, we shall see what happens. I think Derrick Henry, you know, he's the only X factor Tennessee has. AJ Brown is a great receiver. Corey Davis is a great receiver, but the Ravens have great secondary pieces. Their defensive back unit is arguably the best in ball, with Marlon Humphrey and you know, Marcus Peters. The list goes on. So it's going to be, you know, it's the same type of style these teams want to play. Run the football, and run the football some more. I think the Ravens can do it better and more efficiently, and I think they have the better recipe this season to take out Tennessee.
You bring up the duo of Corey Davis and AJ Brown. You know, even throw Jonnu Smith in there. I think that extremely talented tight end.
No doubt.
That's kind of a flex. If Ryan Tannehill, you know, who has just been, you look at the statistics against even he stacks up against Mahomes in a two-year comparison with the amount of yards he's thrown for, the touchdown to interception ratio. He's an underlooked quarterback. You know, he played extremely well in the playoffs last year until they ran into the Chiefs. Obviously, I do agree that the Ravens secondary is one of the best if not the best. That's the X factor to me, is if Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill, the discarded from Miami, revitalizes his career in Tennessee. If he's able to have a decent effectiveness against that secondary, they have a great shot, because Derrick Henry, as you said, he's one guy. He can run for 200, but 200 isn't going to win the game. He could throw Marlon Humphrey across the field with a stiff arm, but that's not going to win an entire game. So Henry's going to have a great game, of course. But if Tannehill is able to honestly be the player that he's been all season, and I think he's just have to be a little bit better, a little bit more special, because the Ravens defense is only improved from last year, and they're as you said, they're clicking at the perfect time. So I think Tannehill, who has been just a surprising, steadfast player for the Tennessee Titans team. He can run the ball. He's had some quality bootleg run. I mean, I think he's the X factor if he's able to play well and find Corey Davis and find AJ Brown and Jonnu Smith. I mean, those are three weapons that if they're able to have success, they are dangerous. But I think it really depends on them, because what you're going to get from the Ravens, because they're clicking on all cylinders right now. So I think it's going to be a really close game as well. We're going to have some great AFC matchups. They're going to be extremely close, and they're very, very close. And there's just such a great history.
There's going to be some reconciliation on Sunday, regardless. I think that both coaches really do have a respect level there. Of course, what happened earlier in the year, with the players on the 50-yard line, and there's a disrespect level, and all that aside, these coaches should have a respect level, right? Mike Vrabel, especially Mike Vrabel, should have respect for John Harbaugh, a Super Bowl champion, a special teams coordinator, right, who comes in and wins a title. There's a lot to like about the Ravens, and there's a lot to like about Tennessee. I do want to stress two things about this game, right? The Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill's success is based off, it predicates itself off of the play action, right? Hand the ball off, hand the play off, and now you're going to slip, and now we're going to go over the top. The addition of Yannick Ngakoue to Baltimore, as well as Matt Judon, I think that could be an issue for Tennessee, especially on the edge rather. I think that that extra 2 seconds Tannehill does with the fake goes over the top. That could be all she wrote for Judon and Ngakoue. And secondly, I think this game is going to come down to special teams. Stephen Gutskowski will be able to play this week. It won't be Sam Sloman, but Gutskowski, he's only made 69% of his field goals this year. He has 7 misses within 50 yards, and against the Ravens, especially when you get in that red zone, the defense really, really hampers down, and they really make you earn it. And I think that if you have to settle for 3, that has to be in the back of Mike Vrabel's head, right? Gutskowski, he's made some big kicks, but once you lose that trust, you might go for it on 4th down. That, a 4th down, not executing on a 4th and 3 and giving momentum to Baltimore could change the game. So for me, the Ravens are going to win this game 31-21. I think the Ravens are clicking at the right time. I do think Tennessee really had a bad draw here. It may not have been much easier to go to Buffalo, right? So who's to say? Sure. But if they were able to draw the Cleveland Browns, Tennessee could win the playoff game in my estimation. I think the Ravens take this game.
The Titans have Derrick Henry. The Ravens have a whole team that is extremely well prepared, extremely well coached, and I think that they've been in high pressure situations before. So I think that go on the road will be more tough. I think that they're obviously more comfortable in M&T and Lamar, but Lamar can go anywhere and do what he does. And I think J.K. Dobbins, like I said, is going to have a big game, because I think the Titans defense is just not good enough to slow them down. I'm going to go 30-23. I think that it's going to be a touchdown game, because I think Lamar he gets his first win, because you don't want to start 0-3 for Lamar, so I think he's going to be on the right foot and get some revenge from last year.
Right. And one last thing, Jayon Brown's not expected to play for Tennessee. He's one of their speedy linebackers. He's not playing for a defense that ranks 28th in yards allowed. For a defense that's worst on third down in the NFL, it could be a long day for Tennessee's defense. Their offensive firepower is going to have to shoulder the load. I believe, and I don't think that Baltimore will allow it this time around.